The introduction. America used the pretext of prohibited weapons to invade Iraq. On the surface, the reason for the invasion was to change the regime in Iraq, but on the surface, it was getting rid of Saddam Hussein, not the regime. As you can see today, what Iraq is going through brought down Saddam Hussein and brought in Iranian loyalists to rule and destroy Iraq. Before we begin, do not forget to support and subscribe so that we can continue to uncover hidden truths. You do not understand. Our policy aims to get rid of Saddam Hussein, not his regime. Richard Haass, Director of Middle East Affairs at the United Nations Security Council. What the United States fears most is allowing UN weapons inspectors to enter. Senior Foreign Policy Advisor to the Senate. This is a mistake. What will you do, British people? Will you run like dogs just because America asked for it? Scott Ritter is a former U.S. Marine and former weapons inspector for the United Nations. Everyone has an open mind. He wants to test the official justifications for Iraq against the available justifications. Discussed. It is assumed that the motive for this war is disarmament. But this war destroyed the efforts of UN inspectors to search for weapons. Who were to begin a new and decisive phase of inspection. It is assumed that this war was to change the regime, but in reality it restored power to the fascist leaders who ruled Iraq, the worst rule in the history of Iraq since ancient times until now, and paved the way to a new Nazi Iraq. Vice Admiral Sir Nicholas Hale Norton signaled less than a week before the start of the war. The government has failed to convince its candidate of the danger posed by Iraq and the necessity of war. Joe Public Britain, sensitive technological intelligence and informants are the sources that provide decision-makers with information that is sometimes inaccurate. The war against terrorism has suddenly and violently turned to Iraq and weapons of mass destruction without confirming any link between them. There is no conclusive evidence of the existence of those weapons. CIA estimates indicated that he no longer poses a real threat to peace in the region. Therefore, assertions that Iraq threatens the security of the United States seem extremely ridiculous and stupid. It seems that there is something very deep beneath the surface that is working to transform what appears to be shallow political opportunism into an effective, influential and enduring political force in the geopolitical history of the United States. The fear of Iraqi power first and the fear of the Arab Mad movement second were the primary concern of successive American governments. But the invasion of Iraq was not for the sake of stabilizing the security of the United States, or a war on terrorism, or changing the regime of Saddam Hussein, but for the sake of the oil of the land of Iraq, and it was not ruled in the hands of George Bush or Tony Blair, but rather in the hands of those who rule the world in secret. George and Tony are nothing but a game front. They are manipulated however they want and however they please. In conclusion, they brought Saddam Hussein to power and they ended his rule and killed as many innocent people as they killed and lost lives for the sake of oil and money. They killed the scholars and imprisoned the honorable people so that they would not return Iraq to its previous state of strength and stability. They brought the dogs of Iran to rule and plundered Iraq so that it could not rise again. Don't forget to support and subscribe.